You're listening to Flip Empire, the show committed to helping real estate entrepreneurs who want to build their empire without sacrificing their life. Your success and freedom starts now with your host, Alex Pardo.
This is episode 669. My name's Alex Pardo, and I am about to interview a husband-wife powerhouse, Ashley and Antonio Denmark out of Birmingham, Alabama. And we're going to be talking about something they call the X-Flipper method, and something, as you're about to hear, I have also called the simple, sexy flipping method. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're going to want to listen to this show. If you are a wholesaler, if you are a flipper, if you're in the real estate investing game, these guys have essentially married a couple different strategies, leveraging creative financing and leveraging lease options that you maybe haven't thought about doing. And I think it could be a valuable tool to add to your tool belt, and something that you can use to not just double, but in most cases, quadruple what you would make flipping houses. So with that being said, I'm excited to introduce you to Ashley and Antonio. Let's dive into the episode so you can learn all about the simple, sexy flipping method. Let's go. Welcome, my friends, to a special post-Thanksgiving Flip Empire podcast. I got the Denmarks in the house, Antonio and Ashley. So you got AAA, Alex, Antonio, and Ashley. And guys, this is going to be a very interesting podcast, and I think it's going to be unique in many ways. I'm going to be learning alongside you. So the Denmarks, who are out of Birmingham, Alabama, just to give you guys a little bit of context and background, they were introduced to me by a really good friend of mine, Brian Tripp, who is very well known in the Birmingham market and is one of the thought leaders in our space. And, you know, we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and they're up to some pretty cool things when it comes to their approach to real estate investing and their specific business model. So I'm going to do something different that I don't typically do as the host. You know, generally speaking, when I'm interviewing someone, I like to find out a little bit about their background, kind of figure out how they got to where they are today, what were some of the challenges, what were some of the lessons and struggles, and then how they're succeeding in their business. How are they making money, generating revenue? And we're going to cover a lot of that today. But I want to actually have the Denmark share with you guys, first of all, what is the X-Flipper method? So this is something that I don't know if they came up with or if they learned it and they kind of, I think they probably learned it from someone or somewhere, and then they tweaked it and made it their own. But they're experts when it comes to this X-Flipper method. And I have a surface level understanding. I have a pretty good idea of how it works, but this particular podcast is going to be dissecting this entire business model. And who knows, maybe this is something that, you know, you guys are intrigued by. Maybe it's something that you can replicate in your market, or maybe you get an idea and then you can implement it, and it's another tool you guys have to generate more revenue and make more money so you can live a better life. That's really the purpose of this particular podcast. So with all that being said, Antonio, Ashley, welcome to the podcast, my friends.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. I'm pumped. Brian, I think very highly of Brian. He's a good friend, and he thinks highly of you guys, and had a lot of really cool things to say about you. So I said, I'd love to have him on. Let's rock and roll. And I love the fact that this is different. It's not just, how are you guys wholesaling or how are you guys flipping, but this is something unique. And my apologies as the dog is going crazy in the background. She's better trained than that, but as is life, we will roll with the punches.
Yes. He's not a 2-year-old. Normally we at the house, we got a 2-year-old that's acting up just like that.
Yeah, I get it. So you might see myself kind of mute myself in and out, but I'll do my best. And I get it. I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, so I know what it's like to have, the toddler running around or crawling around screaming. So let's just dive right into this. What exactly is this X-Flipper method that you guys have coined, invented, created? I'm not sure what, but I'm very curious to find out about this.
Well, it's simple. At least we think it's simple. We buy a property, we renovate it. We're doing the BRRRR method. So we're buying it, we're renovating it. We are finding a renter, but not just any renter. Instead of a renter, we're getting a tenant buyer that's going to fulfill that rental spot. Then we're refinancing, getting all of our initial money out, and we're repeating the process from the BRRRR perspective. Okay. But once we get that tenant buyer, They're putting down an option fee. We create a customized plan for them so that they know the exact steps that they need to take to go from renting to owning. And then we meet with them every quarter. If they're a 6-month candidate, we meet with them every other month to help them go from renting to owning.
Interesting. So one of the things I'm hearing right off the bat that's very unique selling proposition, I'm actually going to do something I don't always do on the podcast, but I'm going to take some notes here because I'm intrigued by this model and I think it's going to help a lot of people. Would you say your unique selling proposition, and again, feel free to correct me if I'm off, is your USP the fact that you're creating this customized plan that's going to walk them through, guide them, and teach them how to ultimately own the house?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I think the combination of creating a plan, being able to help, but also being able to maximize the profit on every deal. So the combination of all of them things together makes it super unique and super powerful.
Interesting. So I'm curious, we're going to dive into like the strategy, the X's and O's, how you structure this, how you pitch it, the communication with the tenant buyer. I mean, we're going to get into all of that because I want this to be a very practical episode for people that are intrigued by this X Flipper method. But how did you guys come up with this? Because many people know the BRRRR method. There's a lot of people that still do it. We've had guest experts on the show here talk about the BRRRR method and how it applies to their business. How did you guys come up with this? I'm curious the origin behind it.
I'm not going to tell you I came up with it. It was Antonio's idea, and I thought he completely lost his mind until I did the first deal. So how did you come up with it, Antonio?
It started from a failure, honestly, because we had been buying rental properties in lower end areas like the first 6 years of our career, accumulating properties, buying them cash, fixing them up. So we had about 10 to 12 properties. But we decided to do our first flip in 2015. And while we was doing that first flip, I'm not going to say it was a disaster, but it didn't go as planned.
It could have been worse.
It took us 6 months to rehab the property, and it took us another 6 months to sell the property. And we had 2 different buyers that didn't buy the property for no reason of our own. The first buyer lost her job the week of closing. The second buyer was a government agency, and they didn't have any inspectors to inspect the property. So the third buyer was actually a real estate agent. Okay. So we put all of our money into this deal so we couldn't buy a property for a full year. And at that point in time, I said, I'm not doing that again. So that's where the BRRRR method came from. I started trying to figure out how to pay off the lender because we had a 6-month loan.
Okay.
So we were 22, 23 at the time, and we didn't even know what a refinance was. So I'm trying to do things to not get foreclosed on. And I was like, okay, a refinance will help us in this situation to at least pay the lender back, get some fund back, and stop the bleeding. But along that train, we went to Than Merrill's. Was that Than Merrill's time?
Fortune Builders?
Fortune Builders.
Yeah.
Fortune Builders and a combination of my guy, Joe McCall. Joe McCall specializes in lease options. So after going through those training, it was like, we can do that. That sounds pretty unique. That sounds interesting. Help people. So we put them together. And it wasn't until we did our first deal that she was actually a believer.
It wasn't until the payout, because we had did 3 of them back to back. But when the first one paid out, I was trying to figure out how to close the other 2 at that point.
Oh, so Ashley, and I appreciate you being so open and transparent. So what I'm hearing is you were a non-believer, and Antonio was like, this is going to work. Let's do this. Let's combine these things. This is going to work. And it wasn't until you guys got paid that you were like, okay, let's do it again.
Yeah. So like with flippers, a lot of times they show you the big checks, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 checks, but it's not net profit. A lot of that is gross profit. 100%. A lot of that's your down payment. A lot of that's your interest payments, your holding costs. So this was our first time getting a check of $40,000 that was net profit.
And the reason why it was net is because we did a lease option with the seller, and we took over their payments because they couldn't sell it at that time. So we did a lease option for 5 years because we didn't know how this was going to work out. We actually sold it within 8 months of in that lease option. So at that point, we didn't have any extra fees. So it was only net. It was easier to see because all the extra fees wasn't even tied up in it. How much did we put in to get it right?
We put $2,500 into it.
And that was like pressure washing the outside, painting the cabinets in the bathroom, adding the backsplash, and adding some molding throughout the house, some crown molding throughout the house.
Okay. Got it.
That was it.
So $2,500, what was and you said you made 40 net?
Yes. On that first deal we made more than 40 because we got an option fee on the front end of $5,000.
Okay.
So as soon as we moved the tenant in, we made $2,500.
And we also made cash flow on the deal because they were paying us $950, and I think her mortgage payments were $700, I think. So we were making cash flow as well.
Yeah, you see, one of the things I absolutely love about the structure of the deal is you had 3 profit centers. You had cash up front, cash up front, cash flow, and cash later.
Yes.
Right? So you made a non-refundable. I'm assuming it was non-refundable option.
He is non-refundable. Got to make sure it's non-refundable.
Non-refundable, $5,000 up front, and then what was your cash flow for the 7-8 month period?
It was $250 a month.
Okay, so $250 a month in cash flow. So you made a couple $1,000s there.
Yeah.
And then you had the big back end payday of 40. Yeah. Amazing. Now, let's start to kind of fast forward. How many of these types of deals have you guys done to this point?
We've probably done about 50 of these as of right now.
So you've done 50 X-Flipper method deals.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm still curious. Did you name it X-Flipper because you guys used to be flippers and that you're over that world now, or what's the deal here?
In total transparency, we still flip from time to time, but Antonio wanted to say F flipping, and I didn't like that. So I was trying to come up with something creative that still gave him what he wanted, but something our kids could hear.
And to kind of add to it, I'm a numbers guy. I got an accounting degree, so I look at numbers in detail. And when we do flips, the numbers don't necessarily always make sense. When you look at it from a tax standpoint, when you look at it from a inspector standpoint, when you look at it from paying your agent standpoint, the numbers didn't always make sense. Compared to if I held this property a little longer, I can double my payout. Sometimes even triple if I do it the right way.
And you get tax deductions, which is so much more, which is so much better than those short-term capital gains.
Yeah. Well, I want to go a little bit deeper here. And sometimes on this podcast, I wish we had the opportunity to kind of show a visual, right? But just for people driving, working out, cleaning the house, whatever, right? They're listening to this podcast. If possible, walk us through doing a side-by-side comparison of flipping, if you guys would have chosen to flip that house versus if you guys would have chose, which you did, obviously, do the X flipper method, AKA F flipping. Sorry, Ashley. So when you talk about like, hey, capital gains tax versus some of the tax credits and deductions that you got, like, is it possible to kind of walk us through the cons of flipping the house versus what you guys did and the pros of the X flipper method?
Is it possible that I can share my screen, Alex?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're using StreamYard here, so I got it.
So this is the house that we actually did as the X flipping way. So if we were to flip it, we would have purchased it. Well, we purchased it for $45,000. We would have rehabbed it for $50,000. All in, we would have been at about $95,000. Lender points and interest, $8,900. We got an appraisal right before we purchased this house, and they told us the ARV was $125, but we added a bathroom to bring it up to $130. So we felt like we could have sold it for $130.
Okay.
Closing fees would have been $4,000. Any repairs, we always put $5,000 once the inspector comes out, and if the buyer wants anything extra, we always put a $5,000 in reserve for that. Agent commission at 6% would have been $7,800. Our sale profit for doing this flip would have been about $14,300.
That's not including the tax situation.
Right.
That's just a net number.
Exactly, because you guys would have gotten hit with short-term capital gains, right?
Yes.
That's right. So that 14,000, Antonio, you studied accounting, but that probably would have been much less than 10 grand actually in your pocket.
Third of that, bingo.
Yeah, exactly. So, a third of that's gone to Uncle Sam. So you guys would have made whatever, 8, 9, 10 grand flipping this house, and it would have taken you a lot more work and energy and headaches and all that versus the $5,000 non-option option non-refundable consideration fee, the couple $1,000s in cash flow, and the 40 grand that you pocketed 8 months later.
Gotcha.
All right. So here's what it was. So the purchase obviously stays the same. You can't do anything with the purchase. $45,000. Instead of spending $50,000 for the rehab, there's some things that we don't have to do when we're refinancing and we're doing the BRRRR method and putting a lease option tenant buyer in. So, for example, we don't have to always put in brand new cabinets. We may put in granite countertops, but maybe if the cabinets are good, they're nice wood, maybe we can paint them and it still be acceptable.
Yeah, you can salvage them.
Yes, we don't have to always get a brand new HVAC unit because a retail buyer is going to want a brand new HVAC unit. Instead, we can make sure it's good. We can have someone come out and service it just to make sure it's good. So we're saving on big ticket items. We don't have to put brand new windows in the house. We can save the big ticket items, basically.
Yeah.
So rehab on here was $40,000. We were all in at 85. Our lender points and interest ended up being $11,050. The tenant on this one gave us a $2,500 option fee. The cash flow was 11 months. We made $2,200. We sold this property instead of the $130 that they thought it was going to be worth. We sold it to the tenant buyer for $160. We matched their option fee. So like we tell our tenant buyers, whatever you put down as your option fee, we'll match up to $5,000 because that helps them not have to worry about how much money they're going to have to save in order to buy a house. We're going to match it so that they don't have to figure that out while they're paying their rent. Sell amount was $160. Closing fees was the $5,000. This tenant buyer didn't ask for any repairs on the back end. Some of them before they move in may say, hey, when I buy, I want new windows, and that's fine. We just fit it in there. So our sale profit ended up being $58,950, but our total profit from all three profit centers ended up being $63,650.
You guys basically quadrupled what you made versus if you just would have gone the usual boring route of just flipping, which is why now I know why Antonio wanted to call it F flipping. Sorry.
I love real estate agents, but understand we didn't pay any real estate agent commission because we didn't need a real estate agent to do this transaction. So that was an instant $8,000 in our pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would you say of the 50 or so ex flipper method deals that you guys have done, what would you say is the average profit total when you factor in all three profit centers?
On average, from a net standpoint, because that's what I like to talk about.
Yeah,
it's about 45 to 50,000 net.
Okay. How much work would you say is involved in these deals? Like, where's the bulk of the work?
Getting them to buy.
I think the bulk of the work is making sure you get in and out of the rehab. That's probably the biggest work for me.
And get them to buy. So
yeah, because if they don't buy, you got to rinse and repeat, right?
Yes.
So meeting with them every quarter, every 2 months, that is a babysitting job. And we do have VAs that handles that part for us. So meeting with them, making sure they don't buy anything new.
Making sure they don't buy a new car.
Yes. Yeah. which sounds very obvious, but you guys know this, but you'd be surprised.
Yes.
So literally on our plan, we have a list of things that they cannot do. Do not get any more credit unless we authorize it. So don't go buy it. Do not buy a car. Do not buy any vehicles, because we've had that to happen several times where One was an electrician. He went and bought a big $40,000 truck. Another one was
he was a truck driver.
He was a truck driver. He went and bought an $80,000 truck. Like, come on.
Can't help you at that point. So in total transparency, everybody doesn't buy. When we understand that, and we go into it saying that 50% will buy, 50% won't buy. But at the same time, we're still getting cash flow. We're still getting option fees. So we're still creating long-term wealth that we can pass down to our kids.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible, guys. You've taken a very simple concept and you've kept it simple, but you've added your flavor to it. And again, whenever you can do one deal and have 3 profit centers, that's one of the biggest challenges I had with wholesaling is you got one profit center. Flipping, you got one profit center. So it can be somewhat vulnerable at times, depending on, you got to buy right, obviously. But I love the fact that if the bulk of your profits on the back end, and if half of your buyers, your tenant buyers, are not able to purchase it, but you're already walking them through it, you still collected the option consideration fee and you still have the cash flow. I don't know about you guys, but I got into real estate for cash flow and for long-term wealth building. And yet, I found myself kind of getting addicted to wholesaling many years ago. And I wasn't as smart as you guys and some others, where it took me a good 13 years or so where I was like, yeah, I've made a bunch of money, but like, where's the cash flow?
Ready to go.
So, and that's why now I pretty much focus on storage and some other things I'm doing that generate a lot of cash flow. So I think it's awesome. Have you guys been teaching people this method, or what does that look like?
Yeah, we started teaching, I think last year, August, this method. So it's been interesting. It's been fun because a lot of people, when we first started, didn't believe in it, thought we were crazy, just like I thought Tonio was crazy. So getting them to buy in, it first started with getting Birmingham to buy in. So Birmingham is pretty bought in my opinion. Would you say?
We have like 75 students in Birmingham.
Wow.
That's follow footsteps, doing the things that we do. I would say that coaching has really helped us define the program.
Okay.
Take it out of
it was a lot in my head.
And like putting it literally,
yeah,
putting it in presentations, putting it on paper, pulling out the contracts, and really breaking it all the way down. Right.
What would you say if somebody's out there and whether they want to reach out to you guys and work with you? And by the way, just as a quick aside, you guys mentioned that you created a book that people can get. Is it about this X-Flipper method?
So it's about the first part. It's about doing deals with none of your own money.
Okay.
So how we get to do deals with none of our own money, and then we burr out of it.
Got it.
After that, it's the X-Flipper way. Yeah. Okay.
You mentioned that you'd be able to give people that are interested in acquiring that book. It's a free book for them.
It's a free book for them. If you guys go to our website, go to the denmarks.us, go to contact us and put a message in it and just say, hey, we were on Alex's podcast. We heard you and we would like a copy of your free book. We will email it over to you as soon as we receive it.
Okay. So thedenmarks.us, and then just send them a message and they'll get you a link or a way that you guys can get the book and connect with them. But as I think through this, because whether people get the book or not or reach out to you, I want to leave people with not just an understanding and awareness about this X-Flipper method, which I think is pretty unique and it's cool. And I like the fact, by the way, Ashley, you mentioned that it was simple. Simple is profitable. Simple pays. Complication is where headaches arise, where profitability becomes at risk. Complications are for the people that are focused on gross versus Antonio. You and I, we're the ones focused on net, right? Gross for show, net for dough. Is one of the things I always say.
I like that saying. I'm gonna steal that one.
Grow. Oh, and I can't even take credit. I heard it somewhere. I'd love to give credit, but yeah, gross for show, net for dough. That's what it's all about. So what are some of the landmines, I should say, that people need to be aware of when trying to structure one of these deals?
I would say first, making sure you buy right. You still want to buy right. If you are buying it and you're using a fix and flip loan, you want to buy at 65%. Like, you don't want to go 70 to where you can't refinance out of it. So buying right, making sure you don't go over rehab just because you're trying to make it look like your personal house. Really just sticking to your scope of work, buying it right, refinancing it out, and then focus on the tenant. What are the major things they need? If you don't know it, go to a mortgage broker and have them to help you create that plan so that you can get them to buy it.
Okay.
I would say a pro tip to add to that is the refinance part. If anybody know about BRRRR, that refinance part can be a challenge sometimes because the appraiser doesn't have a number they're trying to get to. So I will say, if you ever do the BRRRR method and you're doing a refinance, always go and meet the appraiser if you can, and also show them your scope of work, show them what you've done, and have a conversation with them, and that will get you closer to the number you're trying to get to. Because a lot of times they don't really know what you're trying to get to.
Because they don't have that sales contract in hand. Most of the times when you're doing a flip and you're having an appraisal, they have the sales contract, so they know what number that they should be getting close to, versus when you're doing a refinance, they have nothing.
Yeah. I remember this was probably 15 years ago or so, when I was doing a lot of short sailing. And I was in contact with the loss mitigation department, and we'd have the BPO agent, broker's price opinion agent, go out there. We would always show up with our comps. We would show up with, and in that case, low comps, right? We would show up with sex offender reports. We would show up with everything that would devalue this house, right? In your case, you're going in the opposite direction.
We got a packet.
Yes.
Comps are in our packet.
Pictures, other houses.
That's right. So either way, I think the point is that you got to understand what it is you're trying to accomplish, right? In the short sale, you're trying to, get them to take a payoff much lower. In your case, you want to positively influence the value of the property. So I think it's worth highlighting and underscoring the importance of going out there and, building a relationship with the appraiser and showing them why this needs to get top dollar value. At the end of the day, it's on them. But you doing that versus not doing that could mean, it
can be a deal breaker.
And in transparency, that's what we've had the biggest issues, because if we don't go meet them,
the appraiser's coming back bad.
It's coming back more than likely. 75% of the time, it's going to come back lower than we expected.
Interesting.
So I will say that has caused problems. Now, we've learned since then. That's a part of having mentors and coaches, to where you don't have to make those same mistakes that we did.
No doubt.
But it's not hard. Is it work? Yes. Is it get rich quick? No. It's all about building, planting seeds, and helping people.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear you say that, because when I hear get rich quick or anything that even smells like that, I just tend to run.
Yeah.
That doesn't work out well. And people that are out there, I don't think we have to worry about that and spend too much time on this, because I don't think the listener of this show is into get rich quick, because I'm not about that, and I don't even believe in that. You got to put the work in, and it's not just about working hard, but working smart. I think it's a healthy combination of the two. That's pretty incredible that you guys are doing this. It sounds simple. I thought it was going to be a little bit more complicated when I first learned about it, but it's not. It's sexy, but in a very simple way. It's simple, sexy wholesaling.
Simple, sexy wholesaling.
Yeah. Maybe wholesaling is not the simple, sexy flipping. I don't know. I like X flip. I'm not trying to change your method, but it went from F flipping to X flipper, and maybe simple, sexy flipping is
sexy flipping.
That's awesome, guys. So anything else as far as landmines or challenges or things that people need to be made aware of if they're going to go ahead and do this? One of the concerns that I would have doing this and just kind of learning about it is with interest rates on the rise.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth.
How challenging, because if this entire method hinges on being able to refi, walk us through some of those potential challenges with the interest rate environment that we're in right now.
So pre these interest rates going up, we was always refinancing into 30-year loans. So if the tenant bought or not, we still had a nice property. We still had a cash flowing property. Since the interest rates are going up more, now we're refinancing more into bridge loans to allow the interest rates to kind of stabilize and kind of see where we are.
Okay.
So when I say bridge loans, we are getting interest only loans, and we're doing them for 18 months to 24 months.
Okay.
So in an ideal world, the tenant will buy before that loan is due. But if the tenant doesn't buy at that point in time, we know what we're looking at. We know how to position the rents to make sure that the debt coverage ratio is still good for the lenders. And you might not make as much cash flow as you used to, but at the same time, you still have that option fee, and you still have a tenant that's been in the property for a year and a half that has paid you rent.
Okay.
And you're just going to help them even more execute their goals of home ownership.
Right.
So like you're not, at this point, we're not maxing any of our tenant buyers out as far as, okay, what's the most that they can afford?
Makes sense.
We want it in the middle so that if it continues to grow, they can still afford the home.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk to us about the importance of pre-qualifying your tenant buyers and knowing who to go with and knowing who to turn down, even though they might have the upfront option consideration fee.
That is a unique process. You can't see our properties without getting pre-qualified.
Okay. And what does that look like, the pre-qualification process?
It's simple.
Sample, sexy, flipping. I'm telling you, it's something.
Simple.
It's their first, last name, email address. What kind of gross income are they bringing in? What kind of debt do they have? So usually they'll put like the things that's already on their credit report, and we just bounce it off to see if it looks like their credit report. They pull their credit reports. We give them a link to My Free Score Now, where they can get their first one for $1, and they pull all 3 credit reports. And we have our VAs to break it down into our tenant buyer calculator. And it basically, once it's finished, it tells us, are they 6-month candidates? Are they 12-month candidates? Are they 18-month candidates?
Got it. Interesting. Do you think, have you guys had any internal conversations or discussions about seeing what you can do to increase that success ratio, which 50%, half, I think is still pretty good, but what do you think would have to happen in order to make that a 75% success ratio of tenant buyers that successfully actually are able to purchase the property?
I got my answer.
I have the answer too. Go ahead and say yours.
My answer would be increasing the option fee.
Okay.
The higher the option fee is for the tenant buyer, the more likely they are to follow through.
They got skin in the game. It's just like a coaching relationship, right? Like when, I won't get into that, right? But like coaching for free versus people that like are betting on themselves and have skin in the game, they show up differently. I think the 3 of us have experienced that, and it's going to be the same thing with a tenant buyer, right? Yeah. It's too easy to walk away from $1,000 option, consideration fee versus a $10,000 or a $20,000 fee.
Yes. So that's we analyze our buyers, the people who we thought was going to be quick, and we say, hey, let's do 2,500 because they're easy fixes. Those are the ones who really don't need
they take longer.
But the ones who do 5, 7, or 40,000, those are the ones who are on it. They're calling us for their appointments. We're not calling them. There's a different level of motivation.
No doubt.
That type of money is involved.
No doubt. Do you guys interview them? Like, have you found that obviously like there's, we got to be careful not to discriminate anybody, right? But like, have you found that the tenant buyers that successfully are able to purchase a property, there are certain common denominators or certain traits these people have, whether it's they have families or whether it's the amount of money that they make, or like, I'm curious if there's anything that you guys look for that, hey, this person is likely going to be able to purchase this property, or conversely, hey, these are some red flags. And even though they have the fee, maybe maybe they're just probably not going to qualify. I'm curious how you guys would answer.
For a red flag, if someone is like pressuring us and they're like, I need to move in like tomorrow, next week, and it's really like, that's a red flag. Something is about to appear on their credit. Something is about to happen. They're either about to lose their job. Something is happening that they need it right now versus making sure we pick the best one. So typically on the red flag, on the people who want to be fast, because like I'm from Miami. So if I feel like I'm getting like a Miami speed.
No offense taken, Ashley. The host of this show that you're speaking to now is born and raised in Miami. No offense taken. It's all good.
Yeah. But when I get that adrenaline rush as if I'm back in South Florida, I tell everyone in the office, take it easy, slow down, and let's make sure we're making the best decision. Because something always happens in those situations.
I would say a ideal avatar for people who succeed are married couples with 2 incomes. Now, got to be married, not boyfriend and girlfriend.
That's kind
of a red flag.
That can go south real quick.
It has went south. So, married, 2 people household, and if you can build the plan off of one person's income.
There you go.
That is the one that has not let us down. 2 people income. I can build the plan off one of the individuals to buy the house, and we're going to still help the other person, but they're only a backup.
Yes.
So that is kind of the avatar that succeeds the most.
Yeah. I'm curious for you guys, is there a bigger why that is tied into this specific business model, this X-Flipper method? Because you're providing, the way I see it, like I'm going to be very transparent here. And that's one of the things I always challenge my guests with and challenge myself with. When we were wholesaling and I don't know, I must have wholesaled 750 houses, in the last, I don't know, since late 2005. And yes, at times I felt like I was providing a service to the cash buyer. And yes, there's times where I felt like we were providing a service to the seller who needed to sell at a discount for a particular reason. But I don't know that I ever fully felt like we were providing a valuable service. Because when sellers sell at a discount, they can sell at a discount to a number of investors. So we always leaned on our customer service. We leaned on the way we treated people. We leaned on our core values, which really made us feel good about the business we were doing. You guys are helping people qualify for houses and actually providing a service, walking them through, guiding them to qualify for the quote unquote American dream. That feels like a real valuable service that I don't know a ton of people out there doing it. Is that a big driver and motivator here? Or maybe not. Maybe it's just, hey, it's for our family. We want to build wealth and generate cash flow for our kids and for our family. I'm curious, what's the main driver here for you guys?
I know we're going to have different answers because we always have different answers.
That's good. That's all good.
For me, it's helping people. When I grew up, we didn't know much when it came to credit and how the credit really can be manipulated, how you can increase the credit, how you can pay down certain things and then your scores jump up, how much collections you can have when you're buying a house. Like nobody ever taught those things to us. It was basically like a trial and error thing. My parents bought their first house my freshman year in college. We rented before then. And there was so much from a development standpoint that I didn't get until after, and I was able to really break it down and dissect it. Yeah. But a lot of people need to know it because a lot of people feel like they don't have the money, they don't have what they need to succeed, but they have great credit and they just don't, or they have no credit, which is great credit, and they just don't know what they need to do to get to the next level.
Right.
For me, it's 2 main factors. One is to make sure that I pass something down to my kids. So it's more of a long-term vision for us.
Okay.
So that's the first one. But the second one is where it's deeply rooted in me is from my uncle. We grew up in the church, and my uncle taught me at an early age. He said, if you ever find somebody that's giving, they always have it to give. And it's not by coincidence that it happens that way, because God will bless you if you're blessing others.
Amen.
And those are core things that we just believe in that won't change.
So our daily prayer is, God, help us to be a blessing to your people. Sometimes that blessing doesn't feel the best, but you know when it's that blessing and it's like, well, God, you told me to bless your people and this is how it looks. I thank you for letting me be able to do it. What's next?
I love that. We, whether you guys know it or not, we share that same belief and that same faith. So I think it's awesome, and I commend you guys for sharing that. I'm going to get you guys out of here on this. So a couple more questions on that note. Ashley, are there any testimonials, not from necessarily tenant buyers, but you just shared what your daily prayer is? You know, God, help us to bless your people. Any stories come to mind of just maybe something that came out of nowhere, or maybe a situation where you felt very uncomfortable? I know there's been times in my life, especially early on, where I've been tithing for over a decade, and tithing has been I'm an advocate of tithing, and I believe we should be tithers, and I believe when we tithe, God blesses us.
Yes.
And for those of you who are listening and might not be sure, tithing is just first fruits, right? Giving 10%. To wherever you receive your spiritual food. There's a book that I highly recommend. I'm forgetting the author's name, The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. Read that book if you want to know the power of tithing, and doing it so not because you expect to be blessed, but just because it's, you feel it's the right thing to do and to give. Countless blessings come your way when you open up and you show the abundance, right? Not just talk it and think it, but actually show it. Any stories come to mind for you guys, or just when it comes to this topic, what we're speaking on now?
We had a coaching student that started last year, and a year went by and they hadn't did a deal. And we were getting worried about it, and we started trying to find deals for them. So as deals would come across, we would say, well, is this a good deal for them? And we had their name on our dry erase board. And the student ended up texting me and saying, I have a deal I want you to look at. Pass me my phone. She said, I have a deal that I want you to look at. And I'm like, seriously? Like, you're on our board to find you a deal? And she said, really? And I was like, yeah, we were looking to find you a deal. So she partnered with another student, which was really good. And we were like, kind of feeling like we were failing her as a coach, because she had spent her money on the coaching program. She hadn't found the deal, and we just didn't know what to do. And when she was getting ready to close on the deal, she sent me a message, and I told her, like, that day I was just feeling down. And she said, so she put, good morning, beautiful. We're closing tomorrow morning at our office. I'm so excited. Thank you guys for being great teachers and mentors. Have an amazing day. And I'm like, I'm so excited. I want to see if we can stop by. And she told me the time. And I put, you literally put a smile on my face reading your message. I wasn't in the best spirit, and you reminded me of why we do it. This is going to change your life forever and your family lives. God is going to show up and show out for you guys just for trusting in him. And she said, I was just spending time with the Lord, and I'm so grateful that I made the move that I did last year to be a part of the X-Flipper family. It's a God thing. And yes, sometimes we get weary and stressed, but know that God has called you and Antonio to bless his people. He will restore your soul. Just sneak away just a few moments with him will do you well. Mm-hmm. And that just made it all worth it. And it was like, God, you told me to bless your people. You told us to do it. And that was just confirmation.
I can see you getting emotional, Ashley, and I think that's a beautiful thing. That, it's stories like that, and I didn't know what story you were going to share, because I didn't know that until just now. But I had a feeling that you would just immediately think of something powerful like that moves us emotionally, and that's what makes, that's why the business we're in of real estate investing, or just entrepreneurship in general. Yes, we do this to generate profits, right? So that we can provide for our families and we can live a certain lifestyle. But it's beyond that. It's so that we can bless people, and so that we can create impact. at least for me, and I know from what I'm learning from you guys, it's the same for you. Like that is what feels the best.
Yes.
That is where, for me, I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons I pivoted from wholesaling and to focus on storage, but also Ascend, our mastermind, is the joy and fulfillment I get from watching people succeed and watching people grow feels so much better than the checks, right? And the wires. And yes, that's important. And we need those things to be able to bless others. But man, it feels good when you have a positive impact on someone's life.
Agree.
Yes.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Well, God bless you guys. I think it's awesome. I'm grateful Brian connected us. Hopefully we're able to maintain contact and build a relationship. This is kind of rare because I'm fortunate and grateful that I guess just through my network and just my years in this business, most of the time I have a good relationship with people I have on the show and interview. And Brian spoke so highly of you and I trust him. And you guys didn't disappoint.
Thank you.
I can tell you guys have big hearts. And it was really cool to kind of watch you as you read that get emotional, because I can tell that it's not just about making money for you guys. And I think that's part of the reason, as an aside, that you're so successful and you're going to continue to succeed. So it's cool to see you pouring into other people now. So yeah, guys, with that being said, if you want to connect with Antonio and Ashley, www.thedenmarks, just how it sounds, DENMARKS.US, thedenmarks.us. And yeah, send them a message if you want to grab that free book and find out about the X Flipper method, AKA simple, sexy flipping. I don't know. I'm just gonna throw that out there. But no, guys, I appreciate you guys hopping on the show and being so giving. I tried to go as deep as possible in a 45-minute podcast, but there's only so much. If you guys want to learn more, connect with them. Any parting thoughts or final words that you guys would want to share or leave with the audience?
I would just say take action.
Take action.
Progress over perfection is what we preach. Everything is not going to be right. Everything is never going to be perfect. Just take massive imperfect action.
Get off the side. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you guys so much. Let's continue to stay in touch. And my friends, as I've said on previous shows, and I want to say it again, just take one thing that maybe you learned today, or one idea that was born from listening to Antonio and Ashley, whether you're interested in adopting this X Flipper method, or maybe you heard something that now you can leverage as a tool or use in your business. Maybe it's a mindset shift. Maybe it was the story that Ashley shared about, the impact that they're having on people. And ask yourself if your business serves to just make a profit, or does it go much deeper than that, right? What's the ultimate purpose and the ultimate why? And I'll share with you, if you're listening to this and you have a team and your business exists to just make money, my guess is there's turnover in your business. People want to work for and with other people and work for a company that is actually having a positive impact on people and their community. So ask yourself if your business does exist just to line your pockets, or is it really creating an impact on other people? That's what I'll leave with you on today's show. Antonio, Ashley, keep rocking. You guys are doing awesome. I'm excited to see you grow in Birmingham and beyond. And with that being said, guys, I will connect with you on the next Flip Empire show. Take care. Hope you enjoyed that episode. But before you go, I've had a lot of people recently reach out to me wanting to learn more about Ascend, wanting to understand how the mastermind component works, how the coaching relationship works. And so right now we're actually on a waiting list. But what I would encourage you to do is, if you think you're the right fit and you think you could benefit from being a part of our community, head over to ascendyoursuccess.com, watch the short video, and then just click the apply to join button below. And then we'll be in contact with you if and when a spot opens up. So really appreciate you listening to Flip Empire here. And I look forward to connecting with you on the next show. Take care.